Hello everyone and welcome to the Chrissy B Show. We are the UK's only TV programme that's dedicated to your mental health, well-being and success. On the show with me today is Andrew Cohen, who'll be telling me about his charity Future Care UK, benefiting thousands of people across the country through care work. Then later on, I'll also be hearing from Debbie Roche, who became a full-time carer once her son was diagnosed with anorexia. We'll also be hearing the thoughts of Dr. Audrey Tang, who'll be telling us how caring for others can benefit our mental health. Then later on, we will be doing Behind the Fame with Helena. Then as always, I'll be giving you my top tips on how you can best take care of those around you in the winter months. With winter well and truly upon us, and with temperatures an average 6 degrees, at no time in the year is looking after those vulnerable around us so important. According to the Office for National Statistics, on average 15% more deaths occur in the UK during the winter months than in non-winter months, with respiratory diseases such as pneumonia remaining the most common cause of excess deaths. Now, caring can come in many forms. Carers UK define carers as providing unpaid care by looking after an ill, older or disabled family member, friend or partner. It could be a few hours a week or round the clock. That means that you don't necessarily need to provide 24/7 care to be considered a carer, and often many people will be caring for others without even realising they are doing it. Statistics suggest that there will be 9 million carers in the UK by 2037, an increase of around 25% from now. But is there enough support out there for this growing number of people? Well, that's one question I'll be putting to my guest tonight, but first, let's hear what you have to say about the matter. Jack Horwood says, "I'm proud to support care workers because they work incredibly hard in challenging situations and do a great job." So well done, Jack. Manny says, "Love yourself, be kind and focus on doing what makes you happy without caring about what others say." Crazy says, "Sometimes you've got to take care of yourself before caring for others." That's a good point. Deborah says, "Caring for others is a blessing. It is not something that you decide to do one day, it is in your DNA." Connie reiterates this thought. She says, "My mother dedicated her life to caring for and helping others. I think that desire is deep within me too." Jake Nash says, "Sharing is caring, so help others and watch joy fill your heart and everyone around you." So clearly, social media is an important output for many out there, but how does it really help carers and those in need of care? Here's Pax Brown with today's news, and hopefully he can shed a little light on the matter.
Thank you, Chrissy. The holiday season is fast approaching, so what better time to reflect on how we can do more to care for others? And it's children that seem to be at the forefront of caring for others this year. Lane End Primary School in Leeds have recently launched the Operation Christmas Child project. Children and the families have been collecting tinned and dried foods to be distributed to the homeless for Christmas. In Scotland, Greenock College has teamed up with friends to collect over 140 shoeboxes filled with goodies to be delivered all around the world in places that are in need, such as war-torn and poverty-struck regions. And over in Canada, Bow Valley students have been preparing Christmas cards for the residents of an elderly care home, really bringing a smile to their faces. And like most things these days, even the act of caring for others is transitioning to the tech side. Times.co.uk reports of a new digital service that aims to provide care workers to the elderly within 4 hours of booking. Named Sira, this innovative system promises to be the Uber of elderly care. And even the format of social media chat rooms is being tested to treat people with mental health issues. An organization called IESO Digital Health offers free, anonymous mental health advice to anyone who needs it all across the country. And perhaps because meeting face-to-face with support workers can in itself provoke anxiety, methods such as cognitive behavioral therapy in particular, for instance, have proven to be much more effective via online chats. This is because patients have the time to think about and structure what they're going to write and can do so from the safety of their own homes. Incredibly, therapy through written conversation yields results twice as fast as the traditional face-to-face way. And for those who simply want to chat to someone who is going through a similar situation to them, they can check out healthfulchat.org. That's healthful, not helpful, chat.org. The great thing about this website is that there is a chat room for each condition. So you've got a chat room for OCD, a chat room for depression, a chat room for anxiety, amongst many others. That's all from me today, folks. Now back to you, Chrissy.
Well, thank you very much, Pax. As always, some really interesting news there. So now I'm delighted to be joined by a resident psychologist, Dr. Audrey Tang, who is something of a specialist when it comes to helping others.
Hi Chrissy, thank you for having me, and what a fantastic topic all about caring. Caring for others is so essential because many psychologists do believe that we are hardwired, we are pre-programmed to be altruistic. If you go back many years, the whole point of altruism is to propagate the survival of your particular species. Therefore, rabbits will thump their paws to warn of predators coming, and we in turn are hardwired to therefore care for each other, because if we can care for each other, it means our species is able to survive. But if we fast forward that a little bit more, research has shown that when we do care for others, whether it be volunteer work, whether it be helping out in some way, it releases endorphins, and so we start feeling happier. Also, it reduces isolation. Just that reaching out, just that connection with somebody means that we don't feel quite so alone. And also, it can mean that if I care for you, you may care for me in return. It can strengthen that two-way friendship. The other lovely thing about caring for others, which we don't always think about, is that we can see them mature and blossom and nurture them into something really special, and there is a sense of achievement there as well. There are a number of ways in which caring can become a little bit of a problem, and these can be both personal and professional. So let's look at the personal ones first. Sometimes it becomes very easy to lose our identity. If, for example, we're a parent caring for a child who needs physical or emotional support extra to a child without such issues, we may become that carer. We may just become mum, and we may forget who we actually are. And so it is really important to remember that we are a person outside the gifting of that care to somebody else. There can also be a very strong battle of wills when it comes to caring, especially when it comes to an older family member. It may be that they wish to retain their independence, but we as the child can see that actually this isn't the case, and it is really important to try and balance out that struggle, because otherwise you have a child who is incredibly worried about their parent, but the parent who's thinking that they're okay when actually they're not. And with all of us being so dispersed around the area, it's not always easy for that child to come back and look after that parent in an emergency. So that balance needs to be sorted out too. There can also be a battle when it comes to how that person believes care should be. As an example, it's quite a sad example. I know somebody who was undergoing chemotherapy for cancer. Now, they didn't want to continue undergoing chemotherapy because it was really affecting their quality of life. However, because their children were pharmacologists, there was almost an insistence of wanting to continue with chemotherapy, even though the person themselves was feeling they didn't really want to do it. So we do need to take the time to listen to each other when it comes to caring, especially when it's caring on a personal level. Professional caring as well can be problematic, especially if we don't have the support from the management team that we need. As carers, or in a caring profession, I'm talking about nurses or teachers here as an example, you can undergo some very strenuous things within that job itself. However, if you are very well supported, this can be a very positive experience, and after all, you were probably drawn to the caring profession because of a sense of calling or a sense of desire to be part of it. I'd like to give an example of a poor management decision, and this was a piece of research conducted in the 60s, however it does still ring true today. Isabel Menzies-Leith studied the nurses in King's College, and what she found was that these nurses were choosing to go into the nursing profession because they realised how difficult that profession can be. They would be dealing with terminally ill patients, they would be dealing with very intimate aspects of personal care. It wouldn't be the most pleasant of jobs every single time. Now, to protect them, the management decided that they would one example of protection was that the management would give them rotas. In other words, what these nurses would do is they would spend 6 weeks on one ward, 6 weeks on another ward, and that would keep turning over. But of course, this was damaging the very reason why those nurses wanted to go into the profession. They wanted to care. They wanted to build a relationship with, say, somebody who was terminally ill. They didn't want to refer to patients as the broken leg in bed 3. And by making them depersonalize their own experience, they weren't getting as much of the care and the endorphin release and the warmth that drew them into the caring profession in the first place. So when it comes to caring professions, it is incredibly important to understand why somebody went into that profession and to support them in that particular way. Respite care is one of the most important things that you can have for a carer. This gives them the opportunity to live their own lives just for a couple of hours a day. So this might be allowing a parent who's constantly caring for their child that opportunity to go out and go to the cinema or do some shopping. It might be looking out for a child who is a carer as well, and that's quite important when it comes to schools. We may need to recognise that some children are caring for an ailing parent, and we do need to be sensitive to their needs as well. And this can be something as simple as helping them through giving them access to the breakfast club that you might have, where they actually get a hot meal that morning after they've been out caring for their parent and then coming straight to school to continue with their studies. It's also important because if we don't provide care for caring professionals or caring people, sometimes a community of coping may be built up which may or may not be the healthiest option. Certainly professionally, when it comes to communities of coping, these appear because people are going through very emotional times at work, they're having to deal with a lot of difficult situations, and the support from the management is not forthcoming. This means they turn to each other for support and become a very close-knit group. However, this can then result in dependency. So certainly when it comes to professional caring, it is important that the caring support comes from an organisational-wide basis. When it comes to personal caring, respite care is one of the most important things, and through respite care you may also get to meet other people who are going through similar things, and you can swap ideas, you can feel that you're not alone, and those things go a long way to making you feel much more able to continue caring. One of the most important things that we need to remember when anyone is caring for anybody else is who cares for the carer.
Thank you very much to our resident psychologist, Dr. Audrey Tang. Well, after the break, I'll be hearing from Andrew Cohen, founder of Future Care UK, about what they do to help support carers, as well as hearing some of your opinions on what needs to be done for care workers. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, your place for everything mental health and well-being related. Now, as you know, today's episode is focusing on the importance of caring for others and the vital role that carers have within society. So now I'm delighted to be joined by Andrew Cohen, founder and chairman of Future Care UK. Hello, Andrew.
Hi, Chrissy.
Lovely to have you back on the show.
Thank you very much.
So you did come on a little while ago to talk about this amazing wristband that you developed.
Yeah, the technology, yes. The wearable health technology.
Yes, which is absolutely wonderful. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. But I'd like to talk about your personal experience, first of all, of being a carer. So can you tell us how that came about in the first place?
My mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's whilst I was working for an IT company. I considered that it would be better that I gave and supported her. So I became, like a lot of classic 45-plus-year-olds, I left full-time employment to become a family carer.
What was that like, making that decision to do that?
What was that like?
Yeah, what were you going through? Like?
Well, I thought it was important. I wasn't happy with what I heard about the way elderly were being cared for in the community. Okay. We're a very close family, okay. And I thought that I could give something back. I did not realise the magnitude of the responsibility and the energy and how complicated it would be. That was a shock. So coming from a technology background, I immediately said, where's the technology in this sector? Where there wasn't any. Furthermore, at that point, there wasn't any training and support for family carers. And there's a vast difference between what I call nurture and nature. Nurture is when we've all brought up or supported children, a spouse, etc. We've run businesses, you know, we've been employed. Nurture is where actually you have to deal and learn about how you support somebody with a mental health or a physical disability. And you really do need to understand the symptoms, because if you don't understand the symptoms, then you basically can be more disruptive and difficult and creating lots more problems than actually resolving problems.
What were some of the day-to-day issues that you were facing with your mum?
Well, one of the classics is time and location confusion. So a person with a dementia, Alzheimer's in particular, will at a certain phase within that illness lose sense of time and location. So what one would do is they'd be waking up at night thinking it was daytime and that they had to go and get the kids, because they were back in the day when they were a mum and they were looking after us as children, and they were in their 30s or 20s and 30s. So lots of different situations. A milkman used to run out at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, because that was his routine. A busman would be shouting regularly for a bus because that was their profession. They were a ticket collector.
For those that are actually
so it's really difficult, and it's very important that you understand the symptoms of a condition that you're dealing with, because without that you're in a fog. There's no direction, and it's very eroding for yourself as a carer, because you don't know what's happening. And you will react emotionally to something where actually, if you understood the behavioural pattern behind it, you could rationalise it and say, well, that's not mum talking, or that's not dad talking, or that's not their normal behaviour, and we have to go with the flow.
How did you cope before you actually found out about, you know, what was going on and how to actually deal with it? How did you cope? Because I imagine viewers watching now that are maybe going through something like this, and they're just like, oh my God, I can't deal with it.
The earliest stages are the hardest, because in that transition, you're dealing with your own transition and your own guilt and your own anxieties and insecurities. And at the same time, you're having to also look after another person who's very dependent upon you. So, yeah, I mean, there's at the early stages of one's caring journey, I call it a caring journey, and it's a hell of a journey. It's very important to get infrastructure. It's important to get support, not to be socially isolated. You can't look after somebody else unless you're looking after yourself. You will get exhausted.
Is that what happened to you first before you got
I was on
help?
my knees, 78 hours without any care, looking after two people.
Goodness.
I was on my knees. Yeah, no, you can't do it. And luckily I had a very supportive family, a very supportive wife, and supportive children. And it was, we dealt with it as a whole family. Again, it was letting people know your needs, not assuming that they will come round. Actually, the British attitude towards looking after or intervening is very standoffish. People don't know how to engage with you if you are in need. They think, oh, I mustn't be too, I mustn't pry, you know, they'll call me if they need me, sort of thing. Quite the opposite. You're in a fog. You do need people to come and say, do you need help? Can I bring you some food? Can I look after your mum or your dad while you go and get a bit of a break? Get some rest.
You know, you mentioned something, Andrew, as well about guilt, and I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, because they think I should be able to look after my own mum or my own child, and they think that by maybe asking for help from someone else, it's like they're failing them in some way, but that's not the case, is it?
No, I was literally talking to a couple, a mum who's looking after her mum and her son, the son, and I was saying, don't think that you can do it all. You can't. You need help, and you need to engage with people. Try and get a community involved. If you have a religious community or a social community like Bridge, or you have a local church or synagogue or mosque, get help, because most of those organisations have outreach programs. And in the winter it's even worse, because of course you've got social isolation. If you don't have the proper heating, or some people don't have money to heat their houses, they'll die of pneumonia and hypothermia. So there's lots of things that neighbours can do, and to support elderly people who are on their own or isolated, and also the family carer. Family carers are saving this country billions. Carers UK are a perfect example. You know, they can constantly lobby government for carers to be more recognised and the valuable role that they play within the community. And that is why over the last 5-7 years, the government has actually transferred care from institutional care, nursing homes, residential homes, etc., to try and get people back into the community, because people want to remain at home, especially the elderly. It's familiar surroundings to them.
Because it's already a scary thing that they're going through, and then like to be sort of taken somewhere else that they're unfamiliar.
Some people travel miles to go each day. An ordinary employee will work something like 50 hours on top of their job, providing a care role. Quite often, carers will travel to go and see an elderly relative 40, 100, 200, 300 miles.
It's exhausting.
Each week. It's an expensive process, not to mention what it does to the environment. It doesn't have to be like that. Technology
tell us about what you
can
developed,
support
Andrew.
people. It doesn't replace the human soul.
But it helps.
But it helps. So if you have a piece of technology, like in this weather, it's freezing, it's minus something out of there. If an elderly person was wearing one of our wearable devices, that would kick off if their body temperature reduced down to below a certain point. It would alert an NHS 11 emergency service resource, and there would be a person there at the door saying, it looks as if you're going into hypothermic condition, so you need to keep warm. If you haven't got money for the heating, then there are facilities and resources out there through social services which will provide you with some of that support. The best thing at this time in the winter, if you're caring, is to basically make sure you're warm. If you don't have to go out, don't go out, because you could fall. If you do fall in the house or even outside, again, if you're wearing one of the devices that we provide, then there will be an alert, again, to a monitoring centre where an individual will say, are you okay? Can we help? If you get no response, then immediately an ambulance is called out. And it's more powerful than these, what we call red panic buttons, because our technology is linked to an NHS medical triage. So it's really important to have that medical aspect, because if you don't, then you don't get the ambulance so quickly.
Andrew, I mean, it's remarkable that you've managed to put all this together while, you know, having so much to do as well, but it just shows that, you know, you've been trying to think of solutions for a problem that so many people are going through. Now, just as a final note as well, is there any advice that you would give to anyone watching now that is caring for someone else and it's just getting too much for them?
I think we as a company, the Future Care, we have a piece of technology which can change the way the care is delivered. I think that the family carers and the family, and to some degree social services and the NHS, need to look at how those technologies can support people. Don't try and do it on your own. Look around, contact some of your local services, contact us, we're very open, and we're very happy to offer any advice and support. If people if they try and do it on their own, they will burn out, and that's to be avoided. You can't look after somebody unless you look after yourself.
Andrew, thank you so much for coming on again.
It's a pleasure.
To us and for all the advice that you've given today.
Some people out there.
I'm sure it has. Thank you so much.
Great.
All right, guys, so as you know, we do like to hear your views out on the streets of London as well. So we sent out Pax Brown to get your opinions.
All right, ladies and gents, we're in Soho, Kingly Court, and we're going to find out what people think about caring for others and their opinions. So let's go. Sir, hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good, great, thanks. So we're shooting an episode on caring for others today, and we just want to ask a few questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you, very kind. So, do you care for someone on a regular basis?
Yes. My wife's parents are elderly and they can manage, but they need a bit of help. They need a bit of support.
Yes, sure.
I used to. I was a teacher.
Would you say it's important to care for others, and why?
Well, because if we don't, then the people who have nobody to look after them are just going to fail. And you know, I think as a society we've got to support the people who are not able to support themselves.
I would definitely say it's important. I think that's what makes the world go round.
I think in these days you have to. Not only your family, but everybody you can help.
Have you ever seen a situation in which someone isn't doing enough for someone who needs that care?
Oh, that's difficult. No, I personally not in a bad way. I mean, you can always look at a situation and say, oh, they should have done this or they should have done that, but I don't think any of us know each other's circumstances well enough to pass that kind of judgment, to be honest.
We experience it daily in this country when you see people out on the streets and the number of people who walk past them without even giving them a glance.
I think everybody can do more, you know. It depends on the behavior of each one.
Would you say this country does enough to care for those in need?
I don't, no, I don't. I think we, unfortunately, seem to be becoming a country where if it doesn't affect us personally, we don't seem to want to know about it, and we don't find out about it, and I think we close our eyes to it.
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm afraid I have the view that I think the country sometimes is in danger of looking after themselves and not looking after everybody else.
Do you think, in terms of caring for others, in terms of care work, should we embrace this digitalization, or should we step back and reconsider how we've done it, how we've changed in respect to this?
I think people that work with the technology can develop more apps to help other people. I think this is a field that I think will develop in the near future.
Well, I think one of the best things that ever happened in this country was the welfare state, and the fact that the country had systems in place to look after the vulnerable. For whatever reason, they were vulnerable.
If you're doing that kind of work, it needs to be face-to-face, because that is what people need more than anything, isn't it? Face-to-face approach. There are a lot of lonely people in the world, and they need just human contact.
Well, there's a very famous quotation about people not supporting others until there was nobody left, and when they needed support there was nobody to do it. I can't remember what it is exactly, but I think that's what people have got to remember, that if we all support everybody, then everybody's got some sort of network that will help them when they need it.
Yes, I think in the world we live today, it would be very important everyone think about to help.
The message I would like to send to people is that you should just think about how lucky you are, and that it is a pure accident of birth that you are living the life you live now, and you could have been born anywhere, and you could have been born with nothing, and if you were in that situation you would hope that someone out there would try and help you and care for you.
Thank you very much to Pax and to the public there. Well, after the break, I'll be joined by Debbie Roche, who was a full-time carer for her son who suffered from anorexia. So don't go away. Hi, I'm Chrissy B, and my show is all about improving your mental health and being happy. Join me every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10 p.m. on my channel Sky 203. Visit chrissybshow.tv for more information and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chrissy B Show. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chrissy B Show, and on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Welcome back to The Chrissy B Show, everyone, where, as you know, today we have been shining a light on carers and how important it is for us to look after those around us, particularly now during the winter months. So now I'm joined by Debbie Roche, who became a full-time carer for her son who suffered from anorexia. Hello, Debbie, and welcome to the show.
Hello, Chrissy. Thank you for inviting me.
Lovely to have you on. So you have got quite a story, Debbie. You've been through so much, and you've come out fighting, and you've still got a lovely smile on your face. But can you tell us about what happened with your son?
my youngest child, my youngest son, when he was 15, 16, he was diagnosed with anorexia nervosa.
Okay.
This really was quite a shock to the system because of the way my 15-year-old was growing up. He was very similar to my oldest son, and I just did not see the signs. I was not prepared to be hit with a diagnosis as such. You know, I took him to the GP for a number of reasons, numerous reasons, so many ailments, isn't true.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until he'd been through a series of counselling and still wasn't recovering. His physical ailments got worse and worse until he practically could not move. It wasn't just lethargy, he hurt, and he was dashed to hospital, then discharged, and then 2 weeks later a psychiatrist came knocking on my door, and we had an assessment, and he was diagnosed with anorexia nervosa.
What was that like, hearing that as a mum about your own child?
Well, if you can think of massive lead weight hitting you in the face, knocking you back and taking your breath, it was so overwhelming. And I just drained with guilt on hearing the diagnosis.
Why guilt?
Guilt, because I'm a former health and social care lecturer, so, and I think with so many in the profession, you know little bits of a lot.
Okay.
And at that time, many of the textbooks, in fact, all the textbooks that there were around, when they mentioned eating disorders, you had a very small piece of text, and it relayed to females, in the main, adolescent white females. And it's unfortunate that despite going back in history, you find in the first case of anorexia in the 1600s being male and one of female, that the trend has seemed to stay with females. Maybe that's because the male recovered and the female didn't then. Obviously, we don't know. But it was guilt that I didn't see the signs. But the signs aren't that easy because anorexia is such a devious, manipulative condition, and it really doesn't want to be found out. It's staggering to think that, this was 8 years ago, that when that diagnosis was given and I was in shock, there was no one to signpost me to.
You're joking?
No. There was the CAM service.
Awful.
Yeah, CAM service for, you know, for my son.
Yeah.
No parents group for me to go to, or carers group or anything.
Oh God, so what did you do?
I started reading.
Okay. Well, you did something.
There is no way that anorexia, knowing how it's the most fatal of psychological conditions, and there was no way it's going to get my son. So it was like, find out what I need to know. How am I going to do this? If I've got to do it on my own, I'm going to do it.
So at that point, were you still working and then you had to give up your job?
Yeah, I had to. I was a lecturer, and of course, it's not just time in the classroom. You've got time at home as well. You have to prepare lessons and things. And it was simply, there is no way. He needs 24/7 care. He was in the psychiatric unit for some time as well. Yeah. So during that time, I was doing the reading, preparing myself to whatever was going to be coming through the door when he was discharged.
What did come through the door? What were you faced with?
I was faced with, although I knew I'd given birth to the young man that came through the door, his physique was different. He looked so ill. His outlook on life was non-existent, and that was very scary for me as a parent as well. You know, when you have children, there's nothing more than wanting to see them grow up and have their own families and be happy. Yeah. And I was faced with this young man who was really a shell of my son. Yeah. And it was, in a way, it was like maybe rebuilding him and retraining. And of course, that retraining wasn't only for my son, it was, I had to develop new skills, learn new skills so that I could combat the anorexia as well. So, you know, because it was my son was there with an eating disorder, it wasn't the eating disorder. You know, I was going to make sure I still cared for my son, but was trying to manage and fight the eating disorder at the same time, which is very, very hard work, devastating work.
What would you say was the lowest point in all of this, and how did you fight through that?
The lowest, there are so many low points, I'm being perfectly honest, because you think you're taking 3 steps forward and it's 6 back because of relapses and changes in behaviour and the fights. And a low point for me was when my son was rushed to hospital before he went to psychiatric unit. The day before he went to psychiatric unit, he was told by the doctor on the ward at the time that his heart was being eaten by his body. He was being consumed by his own self. It was low for me because obviously that's terrible news. It was terrible news for my son, but also that created a lot of anger for me because I don't think that the professional staff should have actually said that when I wasn't there. So that brought up a whole new avenue I had to tread down and fight, and you know, because of the way that it's very scary, and one of it is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Care my son through 8 years.
You've come out on the other side though, Debbie, because you know I wish we had more time to go into your story. Actually, I'm going to take up some extra time on this segment because I want to hear more, because you got through it somehow.
Got through it.
What before? Because I want to talk about the what you set up to help others as well, and also about a book that you wrote called Anorexia: Son's Battle, A Mother's War, which, you know, great title. Obviously, it's captures definitely what you went through. But tell us, maybe for viewers that are watching, do you have any advice maybe for mums or dads going, not necessarily caring for someone with anorexia, but just caring for a child or relative, what to do when you're really kind of thinking, oh my God, I can't take this anymore, I don't know what to do?
I think, I don't know whether advice would be the right word from me, but just some little pointers maybe. I think, one, to remember, no matter how hard the struggle is, you're not alone, and you don't need to be alone. Find time to talk to someone. I think secondly as well, be mindful that you need to look after yourself. I went to a point, I was diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety and things, but I still had to look after my son, and that was quite a struggle. So, you know, trying to look after yourself is really, really important, to try and protect yourself from, you know, emotionally going down there. And I think third and foremost, retain that hope. Hope that things are going to be as they should be. If you lose that hope, then you're just walking into the wilderness. And
you didn't give up hope
lost.
because your son is getting better now, isn't he? Looking forward.
Yes, he is. My son, 8 years down the line, is on the road to recovery. He's actually talking about a future, which not so long ago was non-existent. You know, there were times when he said he wanted to die. You know, and that's awful for a parent to hear as well. So, you know, we've now, that hope is in great big capital letters now. You know, it's, yes, that hope has actually come to life. And
brilliant.
And those little pointers, keep hold of them, keep close to your heart, and work with them.
You are a fighter. I can see it just in the way she's speaking. Oh, she's a fighter. She doesn't want to give up, and she will never give up. That's amazing. Well, tell us about what you set up then to help others, and about where it came to write your book as well.
Yes. First of all, I've set up an organisation, a little mental health awareness training organisation, because I know if I'd have been more aware of some of the maybe comorbid conditions like depression, anxiety, and the OCDs, I might have been able to support myself and my son a bit better. So, and there are other things as well, you know, just general common mental health issues which if you have a bit of awareness with, you can tackle to some degree yourself without them becoming severe. So set up this organisation, training awareness, and I deliver it to residents, to parents and carers, just to help them on the way, you know, self-harm awareness and eating disorder awareness, just to give people a flavour, because we don't talk enough about mental health conditions.
We don't.
And just something that is very, very serious needs to be out in the open. And
where on earth did you find the time to write your book?
When everything else went to bed. I mean, the book is just, it's twofold really. It's a little bit about me as a carer and my emotions and feelings and things. And the other section is about what I learned, even going back to the history of eating disorders, giving that foundation as to, you know, well, yeah, they have been around a long time. It isn't a contemporary issue, and we do need to fight it. It's been left alone for so long. So.
Debbie, my darling, I think you're absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
It's been lovely having you on, and all the best for the future.
Thank you
so much for speaking to us today.
Lovely. Thank you.
All right, guys, so we need to go to a quick break, and then I'll be back with more after this. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, where now I'm very happy to be joined by Helena Shard, who has this week's Behind the Fame. Hello, Helena.
Hi, Chrissy.
How are you?
Very good, very good.
So just for the benefit of the viewers that maybe have just tuned in, they're new viewers and they don't know what Behind the Fame is all about, can you just quickly explain?
So Behind the Fame it's about famous people, so royals and celebrities, and it's not just little things like what are they wearing, it's really the good that they do, so the platform that they use to do good, which is amazing. And it's also, I think I said before, it's for the ordinary person who does extraordinary things. Which,
so they're famous in their own way.
Yeah, and there's also little tidbits and secrets and things that we talk about.
Okay. So what do you have for us this week?
So this week, I mean, I was very happy to meet Peter Andre at the Ideal Home Exhibition, and hopefully some other people do, and he was signing his new calendar. So I thought I'd start with him because I actually think he's a great guy. Hopefully you do. I think he's a lovely guy, such a family guy. He's won Father of the Year, I think, about 2 or 3 times, and obviously he's so brilliant with his kids. And I think the thing that was great about him was recently he was talking about how he'd seen Robbie Williams talking about his depression and everything. So he also released via Twitter that also he suffers from really high anxiety in social situations and how he cancels things a lot. And so again, it's that, you know, you've got to talk about it, and it does so much good.
I think it actually helps when people know, because I believe that kind of takes the pressure off people a little bit, especially celebrities, because if people are aware that you have this anxiety and it is difficult for you, rather than sort of just pretending and, you know, saying that you're confident all the time, I think that puts extra pressure. But when you actually get it out there and people are aware of it, I think it just makes it easier.
Absolutely. And I just think he's a lovely guy. And also he launched with Cancer Research UK the Peter Andre Foundation, because his brother sadly passed away in 2012, I think. So he does so much, not just there, he does a huge amount of charitable work. And I'm a real fan. I think he's great. And of course, congratulations to him, because he's just had a new little baby boy. And we don't know his name as yet, that's a secret, but we should know soon. Moving on to actually something that we all feel so passionate about, and I wasn't going to talk about it next, but I will. So ITN News reader Mark Austin, very well known, he was talking to Radio 4 about his daughter, and he was struggling and his daughter was struggling. She's got anorexia and very, very nearly died. She got to a point in a very short space of time that she nearly had organ failure, and he was talking, again, high profile, just saying how we're in such a terrible mess, and they've been very lucky because they've got money, and also the wife is an A&E emergency doctor. So they tried everything. They couldn't get a bed, you know, the obvious. They tried private. Actually, even that didn't work because it was to do with force feeding, which obviously wasn't good. And because it was so extreme, I mean, she was an athlete, really, really healthy, and within a few months, she'd lost a huge amount of weight. So they couldn't wait. They managed to pay for daycare and gradually got her back. But he's campaigning at the moment. And there's Stephen and Julia Hollings, I think, as well today, talking about their daughter, who also has anorexia. And but so tearful about it because they've tried so hard to get a bed. They've actually got a bed now. It's taken so long, but it's 400 miles journey each way.
Oh wow! Oh,
so they've done thousands and thousands. I mean, you know, they're so happy to have got a bed, but you know, we are in a real epidemic. And you know, budget cuts with mental health is huge, and it's not on, is it? So we all have to keep going and keep campaigning.
Yes.
Anyway, moving on to the Duchess of Cambridge. He's been a patron of Place to Be, another great charity, providing children with emotional support from an early age, which, as we know, it eradicates the possibility of problems in later life. So all really, really good. And she was at a Wellbeing Schools Awards ceremony. And the lovely thing about it is she meets so many inspiring young adults as such, and they all talk about their problems. And there's one lovely guy who was talking about how he was bullied at school. He's autistic, but his mother broke down. I mean, she's very proud of him because he was saying how he's come to terms with his disability, but he now talks about it and he helps other people within his school and his class, which is so nice. And she was lovely as well, the Duchess, and she gave the mother a cuddle and just said, this is from one mum to another, which is very nice because you don't normally have that contact.
Yeah,
so that was lovely. And something as well, which is quite, to me, was quite amazing to think about it. Children as young as 9 are calling Childline over ISIS terrorism fears. Now, I know that's... So talking about children with difficulties and depression and anxiety, that's just another thing that you wouldn't imagine children would be so upset about. And of course,
I don't remember ever as a 9-year-old even
thinking about anything.
I mean, we used to have like IRA things going on then. I remember sort of bombings in the news and stuff, but I don't remember ever talking about it at school with my friends. We just got on with being a child. Imagine.
And it's really scary. I mean, and it's 24-hour rolling news. So I think we've become desensitised to this bad news. Yeah. But children, obviously, anxiety triggered.
It's amazing, isn't it? What they pick up.
Yeah. Again, another subject which is sensitive. Greg Wallace, 52, from MasterChef, the MasterChef host, who I think is great. So he is encouraging fellow victims of child abuse to come forward following Eric Bristow's derogatory comments. And this is to do with everything that's coming out with, obviously, young football players when they were training, which is just so sad. And he's saying, you know, rather than feel guilt for the abuse, he's urging everyone to come forward because obviously it's going to help. And he's silly old Eric Bristow was calling people, you know, silly for not doing it, and that's not fair. But I mean, he's great, you know, talking about it, and obviously he went through that when he was younger and he was 8 years old. So really empowering, and how brave of all these young footballers who are maybe not so young anymore to come forward, and I'm sure there'll be lots more. Moving on, I'm a Celebrity.
Yes.
Get me out of here. I've been watching it, and I have to say, it is incredibly good. This year is really fantastic. I mean, they've been really getting on, and the dynamics and everything is really good fun. The reason why I'm bringing it up is this whole man up thing that we've been talking about recently. So there's all these things, stop crying and man up. So fans have actually blasted I'm a Celebrity guys because the women have been really quite tough. And the men have all cried for various things throughout the series, so which is quite fun. Wayne Bridge, the footballer, crying. I mean, all for various different things, but I just think, you know, good for them. And I can imagine being in that situation. You're emotional, you're vulnerable, you're away from family and friends.
What a pressured situation that is, that the kind of environment they're in. And, you know, I'll just cry if I didn't have food. I think I would anyway.
I would too. I couldn't manage. I just probably
have
to...
So everything comes out, doesn't it, when you're in that kind of environment?
Yeah. But I just think it's perfect. It's such a lovely situation. I'd like to do it. They should send us.
I would never.
Would you not?
No.
You might love being in the outside, though.
I would love being in the outside, in the outdoors, but not being restricted of food, because you know what I'm like with food.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Anyway, Hannah, thank you so much for this week's Behind the Fame, and we'll see you again next week.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, so now it's time for my own tips on how to stay healthy this winter. All right, guys, I have to whiz through these tips. These are from nhs.uk, and they're giving some advice about how to stay healthy this winter. So the first point they suggest is to eliminate your sleep debt. So apparently, on average, we sleep 6.5 hours a night, which is much less than the 7 to 9 hours, which is actually recommended. And this is by Jessica Alexander, who's a spokesperson at the Sleep Council. And the Sleep Council actually aims to raise awareness of the importance of a good night's sleep for health and well-being. And they say that in winter, we naturally sleep more because of the longer nights. So Jessica says it's perfectly natural to adopt hibernating habits when the weather turns cold. Use the time to catch up. Okay, so good advice there. The second point on the NHS website is to drink more milk. And that's quite a strange one. Now, the reason they're saying this is because you are 80% more likely to get a cold in winter. So making sure your immune system is in tip-top condition is important. So apparently milk and dairy products such as cheese, yogurt and fromage frais are a great source of protein and vitamins A and B12. And obviously they're also a very good source of calcium, which helps to keep our bones strong. Okay, so that's another great point there. So let's go to the third point now. They're saying also to eat more fruit and veg. So when it's cold and dark outside, they're saying that it can be very tempting to fill up on unhealthy comfort food and maybe have lots of hot chocolates and all those kind of things. It's kind of natural thing to want to do. But they're saying having a healthy diet and make sure you have your 5 a day will actually help you keep stronger. So they're suggesting that if you do want something sweet, try a clementine or a satsuma. I don't know, if that's quite the same for some people, but they're saying that, you can try things like dried fruits as well, such as dates or raisins. So let's whiz now through to the next point, which is try new activities for the whole family. So now I can understand why they're saying this one, because when it's cold, a lot of people just like to stay indoors and huddle up under a blanket and watch lots of films, and they're not really getting out there and exercising. So try doing something as a family. Try maybe going for a walk or ice skating, something that will keep some exercise going, because if you're already maybe eating not as good as you normally do, and then you're not doing any exercise on top of that, it can really affect you. And finally, for the last point, is have a hearty breakfast. Okay, so a lot of people skip breakfast, and the website is saying that winter is the perfect season for porridge, so make sure you eat lots of porridge. And it's saying that's also really good for you, and it's a great way to start your day, and it helps boost your intake of starchy foods and fiber. And these of course will give you lots of energy and help you to feel fuller for longer. And also, if you do have a good breakfast, you're less likely to snack on unhealthy things, which goes back to the point that we said earlier. Well, guys, we have reached the end of today's program, but don't forget, if you have a story that you would like to share on this program, maybe it's an experience that you've been through that you'd like to share to help other viewers, or maybe you need some help on this program, do get in touch with us. You can email us on info@chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet us @ChrissyBShow, leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show, or you can just visit our website, which is chrissybshow.tv. Until next time, bye-bye for now.
Oh, it's great. I think the show's really good. It really helps people, expresses a lot of concerns and issues which are difficult to communicate.
An absolutely amazing experience on this show. You really need programmes like this to raise awareness out there. Without these sort of programmes, without Chrissy, people out there would lack the education to actually go and support themselves and support others. Thumbs up for it.
With winter well and truly upon us, and with temperatures on average, then later on we'll be doing the Behind the Fame with Helena as usual, and also seeing Pax Brown get... Oh, shut up, start again.
Lane End Primary School in Leeds, for example, have recently launched the Christmas Child. The residents of the care homes really have... We have a new app called Sarah, in which carers are... this new service promises to be like the Uber of care workers. Named Sira, this innovative digital service aims